we've got a very big day here in Nigeria, a big time, that really is, because this day newspaper correspondents report on mandate us today that after several months of intense fighting, thousands of delegates at the weekend gathered in Abuja to choose new leaders for the Nigeria's ruling political party, the All Progressives Congress, or the APC. The ruling APC boasts of 41 million members. That's roughly 1/4 of Nigeria's estimated 200 million population. So while the All Progressives Congress, or APC, called this long and well advertised, reported infighting an internal party affair, the fact is the well-being of millions of Nigerians in and outside of the APC and all other political parties are at stake. This is a journey into the political economic discourse of party politics in Nigeria on the road to the 2023 general elections. Joining me to chat to this is an experienced political journalist and the Arise political editor, Sumna Sambo. Good evening, Sumna. Let's get started. I'm sure it was a very busy week for you. You're still bleary-eyed from hours of lack of sleep with the rest of your production crew covering this very mega political party issue with the APC and convention. What are the takeaways for you from this concluded weekend event?
Thank you so much, and good evening to our viewers. The takeaway from the National Convention of the APC is that they are able to put their house in order after several decision-making was pushed to President Muhammadu Buhari at the end of the day, because the failure of the party to actually have functional organs has left the president being the last person to take all the decisions, and it's not good for a political party. But in the sort of third world politics like we are faced with at the moment, there's no reason why the president shouldn't intervene when he looks at the political party failing to fulfill its promises of internal democracy. And at the long run, it looks like if the president doesn't intervene, the party will just collapse. So considering the nature of this political party, how it was cobbled together, if you may use such a word, in 2013, President Buhari had no choice than to come in at the last moment to throw up the issue of consensus, try to ensure that the governors are beaten into line, whipped into line, because if he hadn't done that, there would have been a major challenge at the National Convention. We would have seen some sort of rebellion. But despite the fact that some of the governors and other party chieftains weren't really happy with some of the choices made, but because he remains the president and the strongest person who dispenses favor, who has the biggest whip, they had no choice than to fall in line. So it's a big lesson that if things are done very well, you may not need a leader to be using such strong hand tactics. But if things are not done well, then we would have no choice than to have such a strong person coming in. But don't forget what President Barack Obama, former US president, had warned, that Africans should focus on building stronger institutions and not strong men, because the strong men will not always be there, but stronger institutions will always be there. Now, the question is left to Nigerians to decide if indeed the APC is building an institution or a strong person.
You touched a little bit, Sumna, on some of the months of rancor, infighting, factionalization. There was a lot of horse trading and all of that, well covered by Arise News Channel and our sister organization, This Day Newspapers. My question, you're talking about what President Barack Obama said about institutions and individuals. In whose interest were all those who are vying to become chairman of the All Progressives Congress, those who want to be members of the various committees and what have you? We saw a whole lot, there were a lot of court cases and all of that. It was all well covered. In whose interest were all those jostling to hold key positions in the APC?
Well, if we are to follow political ideologies, then we will say that it's supposed to be in the interest of the people, because the idea is representation, and especially for a party that has different segments that were brought together to actually form what we now know as the All Progressives Congress. There are different views, there are different groups that coalesced, but it looks like that marriage is yet to be fully cemented, and that's why, despite the APC being in existence for over 8 years, since 2013, we are still hearing the issues of an ACN group within the APC, a CPC group within the APC, and AMPP group, and then even new PDP that a lot of people are saying are now the ones in charge of the party. Now, in all of this, the interest is supposed to be party members, that of party members. Driving an ideology, it should be a contest of ideas as to what sort of political party that members would want to see to challenge the opposition party, especially in the next general election, to maintain the presidency and then maintain an overwhelming influence over the polity. But we are not seeing such interest coming up. Instead, we are seeing individual interests that are not group interests that can actually cement the stronghold of the APC. And so this is what political analysts and observers are warning, that if the APC continues with the way it's going, then there's a likelihood that they may not have a party even before 2023. So there has to be a way that most of these groups are given an opportunity to actually develop a collective ideology for the party. Right now, the APC, right from the ideologies we saw the party coming into government with, it looks like they've discarded such ideologies, the welfarist ideologies. The president and his vice president have tried to ensure that APC keeps to those objectives, trying to be a party that builds on the welfare of Nigerians and all of that. But we've seen the prices of commodities skyrocket. We've seen the average Nigerian unable to meet the basic needs of his or her family. And a lot of Nigerians are beginning to wonder, to question, what exactly does the APC stand for? If indeed the PDP, the major opposition, had these neoliberalist policies in place, and they were always willing to challenge the status quo, to want to sell national assets, to want to build a free market society, what exactly is the APC doing in government now? Because it looks like they haven't succeeded in those welfarist policies so much that they have told Nigerians that they were coming to do. It looks like the APC is becoming conservative, a neoconservative party. And if you look at it, with the emergence of Senator Abdullah Adamu as the new chairman of the party, though from the process of consensus, it looks like the APC has become more conservative than progressive, as we were told when this party was being formed in 2013.
When we come back, we have a lot to talk about. Who said what at the convention? 41 million members. That's what APC claimed. That's about a quarter of Nigeria's population. I'm seriously concerned. I'll be right back, everyone. Nigeria's political waters is already getting warm by the day and is expected to get hotter as 2023 elections get closer. For now, party politics is on the parade ahead of real bare-knuckle context in 2023. Discussing party politics, governance, and economy with me is Arise political editor Sumna Sambo, live from our Abuja studios. Sumna, thank you so much. I was talking about the All Progressives Congress boasting of 31 million Nigerians, roughly. That's about the size of at least 3 or 4 countries in Africa, each country. So that's a huge number, if you ask me. So the vice president, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, maybe I missed a few of the speeches there. I'm sure there were a lot of congratulations. Professor Yemi Osinbajo seemed to be the one to speak more to the state of the economy. He said jobs, jobs, jobs. He spoke more like someone on the campaign trail when he says that infrastructure and economy, everything that President Buhari's administration started will be continued. So, was that just a political stunt there, or feel-good statement, or you think that is what he really meant? That we need jobs and more jobs and more jobs, despite those who are jostling for different positions within the party?
Thanks so much, Bosin. The vice president actually sounded very strong on economics and all of that when he was making that speech. And he talked about how this party has been able to become stronger and driven the infrastructure of the country into a better level than they actually met it. I mean, the APC actually has done well in terms of those infrastructure. When you talk about railways, I mean, we haven't seen any government that has done so good in railways like this government. The road networks, yes, an improvement in that. And then we have also seen them engaging on certain aspects of social welfare and all of that. Yes, the vice president actually sounded like, I mean, he was beginning to come out of his own shell to try to see how he could battle the ticket, the presidential ticket of the party in 2023. And coincidentally, in the next 2 months thereabout, by May specifically, the APC will be having its special national convention where a presidential candidate will be elected. He hasn't thrown his hat in the ring, but he is actually the home for the explanation of the APC's ideology when it comes to the economic indices that the APC met on ground, what they've been able to do, and where they hope to be if eventually they are able to get a successor coming from within the party. Now, the major challenge that the APC has is that, as the vice president was talking about jobs, that's what Nigerians actually thought that they were coming to come and give. But I can tell you that even the Empower, which was one policy that they put in place to actually get young Nigerian university graduates off the streets, to actually give them something, they haven't been able to do so much about it because they've weaned off a lot of people from that program. Many of them didn't get jobs like they had promised. If you look at the campaign billboards and other promises made by this same government in 2014/2015, a lot of Nigerians will actually query them that they haven't done very well. More people have lost their jobs under this government because of several harsh economic realities. Now, sometimes the government will come out to say the blame is not only on them because of the global economic realities, including of recent, we've seen the inflation rate going high. We've seen, you know, the trade in basic commodities, which we all have been getting our income from globally going down and down. I mean, look at the crude oil prices going up, but we haven't been able to make so much from it. And so as it stands right now, it looks like that may be the new position that they will still have to share to Nigerians, that they are going to create more jobs. But a lot of Nigerians may want to doubt them, considering what has happened from 2015.
So my question, my political editor, therefore, is that do you think Nigerians, whether they are members of the APC or non-political, whatever, political, whatever, or those who are political, should they really care about this convention of last weekend by the APC? Should Nigerians care? Who cares?
Yes, indeed. Nigerians should take a very huge interest in what's happening within the political parties, because it's the structure of political parties that eventually lead to leadership. If you look at how the democratic institutions run in the country, you discover that political parties are not institutions that should be left to politicians alone. Just like someone has said, a philosopher has said, that politics is too important to be left in the hands of politicians, because that is the leadership recruitment mechanism. I mean, all the candidates that will be thrown up for elections will have to come through political parties. So a lot of Nigerians need to be to show keen interest as to the sort of candidates that will be coming out from the APC being presented by this political party in 2023. When you see a major political party refusing to follow its own internal processes, it should be a process of concern. Because, Bosin, take a look at why we had military interventions in the past. It was because of the failure of political parties in the First Republic in 1966, when we had our first coup on January 15, 1966. It's because the politicians failed to manage the polity very well that we had a military intervention. The same thing happened in 1983 when we had military intervention. It was the failure of politicians to manage our polity. And the thing is that when politicians emerge as governors, as presidents and all of that, Nigerians go to sleep. Nigerians must wake up and know that if our democracy must continue to be in good health, they must show interest in how political parties obey their own constitutions. I mean, these are laws that were set in place by APC for APC members, PDP for PDP members, and the remaining political parties. So if political parties are not following what they have set for themselves, then it's a problem, because it's an invitation to anarchy, it's an invitation to the military, and all of that. So the APC has done well by at least presenting a united front and trying to, within the best that it can, follow its own constitution. But we must thank institutions like INEC that stood up and said, this is the right path. If you don't follow this, irrespective of whether you're a ruling party, we won't accept these candidates from you. And a situation could have happened where we would have gone into the 2023 election, and all the party candidates presented by APC are all pushed aside by the court. What would now have happened? That would have been a recipe for chaos.
Interesting. So you think what happened last weekend with the All Progressive Congress, on a final note, is what's your outlook from other political parties? Because all of them would have to go through these conventions, as it were, for party members and internal party structure. And then you think that's a recipe for some kind of governance which Nigerians can look forward to in 2023 onward?
Yes, indeed. Nigerians should take a keen interest in what political parties are doing. Not just the APC, not just the PDP. A lot of parties are there to challenge the ruling party. Now, the ruling party must obey its own rules. All these political parties must obey their own rules. The idea is to sustain our democracy. The civil society groups have a role to play. The media all have a role to play. Institutions of democracy like INEC, like the courts and all of that have critical roles to play. We must see that politicians are not allowed to run the system alone. And once the politicians know that the system is being watched, Nigerians are active in knowing what is happening, I can tell you that they won't mess the system up. Look at the issues of political ideology. If you look at APC, you see that when they came in 2015, they have one segment of the APC have ideologies that are following Obafemi Awolowo and his welfarist policies. Then one segment of the APC is still, dealing with the issues of Aminu Kano School of Philosophy, trying to cater for the poor. Now, when the APC came as a result of an offshoot of ACN and CPC and then AMPP and all of that, at a point in time, they were driving this ideology, but at a point, they started running away from what they had committed to telling Nigerians. Now, Nigerians must hold them responsible if they say they're a welfarist political party. The same thing with the PDP. If the PDP says it's a neoliberal political party that's meant to give Nigerians a credible alternative, Nigerians must hold them responsible and make sure that they live up to their expectations.
It's going to be a very busy time for you, Sumner Sambo, Arise political editor. Thank you very much for bringing those perspectives into the office. It's early days for you. 2093 election day is still about a year away, 12 months away. Thank you so much.